How do wealthy people always seem to make the right choices that build even more wealth? Are they just lucky? No, they turn to trusted advisors who understand their goals. The wealthy never listen to entertainers for financial advice, and you shouldn't either. How do you know who to trust? You know because you're now listening to Balancing Your Budget with your host, Rodney Balance. Welcome to the Accountability Zone.
And hello, my friends. This is Rodney Balance, your host of Balancing Your Budget. And I'm so grateful that you've taken time out of your busy day to join us here once again for the most timely and the most reliable and competent financial information that we can bring to you. I'm joined today in the studio, as always, by my trusted companion, Chester, our 6-year-old yellow lab, who's napping in the floor, and my lovely bride, Heather, across the table from me here. And we're going to be joined in just a couple minutes by a celebrity, I guess is the only way to put it. His video, 3-video series called The Middle East, The Rest of the Story, was released last week. And before lunchtime on Monday, there were already 10,000 plus hits on YouTube because somebody had already posted it to YouTube. So we're going to be joined by my I dare say friend. I just have such tremendous respect and love for the man that I hope he doesn't get upset by calling him friend. But we're going to be joined by Lindsey Williams here in just a couple minutes. But before that, I want to just talk to you guys about what's going on in the world. You've got to understand that a few things. Okay, first off, I've been on the phone almost nonstop all week long because I've been getting phone calls and emails from folks who have seen this DVD that Pastor Williams has done that I was honored to be a small part of. And people just asking, what on earth do we need to do? We've never realized just how critical the economic situation in the world is. We've never realized that we've got to do something now or we're going to be too late. What do we do? And almost every one of these calls have been so similar in nature that we've decided to launch a page on our website where we can address these things through teleconferences, through regular radio updates, videos, articles, and things like that. So keep a watch at godsdollar.com for a new link to go to so that you can get the most reliable, up-to-date, critical information that you need to protect your family. It's coming very soon. We're going to launch this before April 1st because if you wait any longer to prepare your house may not be prepared. So, Heather, you said something earlier about an inflation report. I noticed we've got one here from, as you know, I get reports from all over the world. I try not to just focus on what the American media gives us because it's pretty much a waste of time. But I did notice that there was something in Europe, UK, their inflation data today is at their inflation rate is at 4.4%, 4%. More than double what the government had predicted for this year at 2% inflation. Now, as we've talked about before, as we know what our weather pattern is going to be here in eastern North Carolina, we always look to the west.
Right.
Because weather patterns that move across the United States, they get to us. As we want to know what the economic weather patterns are looking like, we look to the east. And we look to Europe and the Middle East and things like that. And what's going on there eventually, just like the weather always tracks eastward with us, the economic climate always tracks westward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's happening with us. You saw something in the news today. I can't lay my hands on that article, but something you saw on one of the news channels about inflation.
Well, it was on a website, a news website,
right,
talking about the inflationary the
food
prices in particular
mm-hmm.
Rose 3.9% last month, and it was the highest increase since 1974.
1974.
Yes.
I think it's a good time to bring Pastor Williams in. What do you think?
I think so. And it's not just there. I mean, we're seeing that, companies are reporting they're going to have to charge higher prices. Supermarkets saying be prepared for higher prices. Right.
General Mills was on the, in fact, I've got an article right here in front of me. General Mills sees higher costs down the road. They're looking at 2011 and 2012 being the highest rate of price increases ever to hit their
I read that as well, and it's 4 to 5%.
So, folks, if you're not prepared, you better listen.
Plant a garden.
Pastor Williams, Sir, thank you for joining us today.
Rodney, what a privilege it is to be with you today. And I'm sure that your listening audience probably knows that we had the privilege of having you out here with us just recently.
You know, something I've told our listeners too, Pastor, is I've had so many people ask me about you, your family, your home, and the one thing I've told them above how wonderful you all are is that you are for real. You're not telling us to do one thing and doing something else yourself. You're living what you're preaching, and folks, don't try to find this guy's house. He is out in the middle of the desert in Arizona. There is no way you can find this guy's house. Just know he is doing what he's saying. He's living what he's preaching, and his family is prepared. Amen, brother.
And Rodney, while you were here, you had to eat health foods whether you liked it or not.
And I really appreciated that.
Oh, we tried our best to feed him everything healthy from the time he walked into the door till the time he left. But we had such a marvelous time together. But Rodney, since I'm sure I have many new friends out there in your audience because you're always picking up new people listening to you. And if ever they needed you, it's right now. Let me go back and give just a little brief background as to where I'm coming from. Otherwise, people will have a very difficult time believing some of the startling statements they'll hear made on your program today.
Please do.
It was back many years ago. I went to Alaska as an aviation missionary. I had been the pastor of a church in Florida for 12 years prior to that. And just after arriving in the state of Alaska, I heard they were going to build the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. That was the biggest pipe ever constructed on the face of the earth for the carrying of crude oil. And they said that 25,000 pipeliners would converge on the state of Alaska to build America's big oil field and pipeline. And the first thing that came to my mind, Rodney, as a missionary, 25,000 of the roughest, toughest, cussingest, drinkingest, orneringest folks on the face of the earth, they must need some spiritual guidance. Right. Well, naturally, that was the understatement of the year, but I went through the 9 major oil companies that were going to build that pipeline, and I said, don't you need a chaplain on the pipeline? Well, their response was, we never had a chaplain on any pipeline in the world. We wouldn't know what to do with you. Go there and let us alone, so to speak. Well, I didn't. I kept going back and back. Persistence paid off, and finally they said, okay, since we don't know what to do with you, we'll just give you the Prudhoe Bay area. That's right on the Arctic Ocean where it goes to 60, 70 below zero in the wintertime. On America's big oil field in northern Alaska, they said, Prudhoe Bay and the camps south of down to Galbraith Lake, just go up and see what you can do. Well, I did. I'm quite sure they thought I would only last a short while, but I stayed. And about 6 months later, the oil companies came to me and said, Chaplain, you are saving us thousands of dollars of counseling fees. We never had the slightest idea of the value of a chaplain on a pipeline. We would like to offer you executive status. And I said, well, what does that mean? I've never been an executive on anybody's board but the Lord's. Well, they said, that means you go any place you'd like to, see anything you want to see, write your own airline tickets when you want to go home. And they said, we'd like to invite you to sit in on our board meetings in an advisory capacity in order to help the relationship between management and labor. I had not the slightest idea what the next 3 years would hold in my life, because for 3 years' time, I lived with the people you hear about in the World Bank and the IMF, the top oil company officials of the world. Now, they were not coming to my church to sit and listen to my sermon. I was on their oil field, invited to be their chaplain, and sitting in their board meetings with them. You know, there is no way that this could have happened except by the providence of God. There is no way that a little insignificant, unknown missionary flying airplanes out in the bush of Alaska could have possibly been invited to live with the elite, sit across the dinner table from them, live in the same dorms with them, sit in their board meetings, except by the providence of God. So I give the Lord all the glory and all the praise. It changed my life. I'll never be the same person again. If you have ever, anyone in Rodney's audience today, if you have ever doubted the fact that there's a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world, please remove that doubt from your minds. I want to say to you very emphatically, as a minister of the gospel for over 50 years, a pastor of a church, a missionary for 12 years, I want to say to you emphatically, there positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world.
Amen.
They tell our president what to do. That's very obvious, which is what's happening in the Middle East right now. They dictate the value of the dollar on any given day. They tell the Arabs what they're going to give them for a barrel of oil. They control OPEC. They control the currencies of the world. They're the ones that brought on the recession we have in America right now. They are totally controlling your life, and they have a timeline at the end of 2012. Now, that was 35 years ago that I had that experience. And over these 35 years, I have kept in touch with two of these individuals that know everything that is planned behind closed doors in advance. There positively is nothing that happens by chance. It all happens by design plan. And two of these individuals that know everything that goes on. One of them, only about, I guess, 4 or 5 months ago, died. He was in his 80s. And he said to me before he passed away, he said, "Chaplain, I'm too old to care. Just go ahead and tell the world everything." Well, for the past 5 months, I've tried to do just that. And that's the reason that Rodney Balance came out and appeared on set with us recently, just a few weeks ago, when we did the most in-depth DVD series I've ever done in my life, The Middle East, the rest of the story. So if you want to know everything that's going to happen between now and the end of 2012, Rodney, we'll put in as much of it as we can put in the rest of this program today.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, look, let's go ahead and give a phone number out. People can call and order that DVD set.
Well, have a pencil and a piece of paper handy, and after we've given them some details as to what is going to take place and how we prove these things to be true, then just have that pencil, piece of paper ready, because we'll give it to you then. Now, I want you also to do this for me today. I'd like you to write down some details of things that I'm going to give you that you can expect. And I'd like you to post that piece of paper right beside your calendar. And every time you see it happen, I'd like you to check it off and say, yes, what he said on that program that day was true. Now, don't you dare go and call me a prophet. Now, I am not a prophet. I did not receive any of this from a vision or a divine source. I've had no words directly from the Lord. The information that I'll be giving you today came as a result of God's providence allowing me to live with the elite of the world for 3 years, and I received these things from the people who are doing it, the elite, human beings. There are probably a handful of them, and they control the world. And this is where you'll get this. First of all, you need to know their timeline. They have a timeline of the end of 2012. You heard me correctly. They intend to do certain things by the end of 2012. That gives you about a year and 3 quarters to set your house in order. And if you don't, you've had it. Now, I'm sure you must realize that this morning there are some very precarious things taking place. Gold this morning opened at the highest it has ever been in the history of the world.
Right.
Silver today hit an all-time record high. Japan is in major problems because of the earthquake and the tsunami. As a result, they cannot buy our T-bills anymore, and they're going to be dumping their securities as fast as they possibly can. Now, folks, I hope you realize the consequence of this to the American dollar. And I'd like to ask you a question. Should you be alarmed that the biggest bond fund in the world has dumped all of the U.S. Treasury bonds? Every Treasury bond that Bill Gross holds, he dumped them, and then just a few days ago, on the 10th of this month, he told the entire world that he had dumped every Treasury bond that PIMCO had. Now, does that tell you anything that one of the most successful, wealthiest men in the field of T-bills and bonds has dumped everything they've got? Why? There's a reason. And as of just a few weeks ago, the Federal Reserve surpassed China as the largest holder of United States debt. Does that tell you anything? People aren't showing up to buy our T-bills anymore. The interest on the national debt can't be paid. And the Federal Reserve is turning around and buying its own debt. Now, folks, this should tell us something. You need to examine your portfolio as you've never examined it before, because the dollar, now this is the word that was given to me, the dollar will be dead by the end of 2012. Now, please do not misinterpret what I'm saying. I did not say the dollar would be non-existent by the end of 2012. You know, I've learned over the years to listen to the elite very exactly in what they say and not try to put words in where they didn't say it. And the dollar is going to diminish in its purchasing power to the point by the end of 2012, for all practical purposes, it will be worthless. You know, taking a wheelbarrow load of dollars to the grocery store in order to buy a loaf of bread, so to speak. I didn't say that's exactly what's going to happen, but so to speak, it'll be dead. Now, why do they want to do this? It's all a part of their plan to bring in the new world order and to introduce a world currency, and the world currency will be backed by gold and silver. Why do you think that gold hit an all-time record high this morning, silver hit an all-time record high? I can't even afford it. I heard one gold dealer this morning on his program, including the premiums that they charge for it, was offering gold St. Gordon's, $1,750 for one coin. Almost unbelievable. It's completely priced me out of the market. Wow. Well, I'll tell you where it's going. I've been told the elite, this is their currency, is gold and silver. They want to back the new world currency with gold and silver someday. They have to take gold to $3,000 an ounce. They have to take crude oil to $200 a barrel. They have to take silver to well over $50 an ounce before they can back the new world currency with gold and silver. Now, Rodney, I know I've spilled a whole lot here in a few moments. I'll give you an opportunity to respond. But, folks, you must listen to Rodney Ballard. You must get in touch with him. You positively need to set some things in order real soon, Rodney.
Pastor, I just said something very briefly at the beginning of the program today about a program that we're launching through our ministry. It's called the Economic Preparedness Program. And this is a program that's going to give members an in-depth access, not just to me and my team of financial professionals, but also to the same magazine articles, newspaper articles we read, the important facts that are going on. And hopefully I can encourage you to maybe jot down an article every now and then and throw in there with it as well. But we want to make sure that everybody has access to the most timely, the most comprehensive, and reliable information, not just financial information, but information as humanly possible. And we're going to do that by launching this Economic Preparedness Program to enlighten and encourage and empower people to do better with what the Lord has blessed them and to make sure they protect their families with it. They'll find out more about that at godsdollar.com. We'll have that coming very soon, hopefully, but definitely before the 1st of April. So make sure you check it out at godsdollar.com. And we'll also always have links to the latest information from Pastor Williams, and because he's always generating new information that is so critical to the economic survival of our families. And really quickly, Pastor, one thing I want to throw in here is, as you talked about the devaluation of the dollar, a lot of people right now are listening, and they're looking at the stock market on CNBC or whatever they're watching, and they're seeing the market up 80 points today. They're saying, how on earth, this has all got to be, this is all hogwash because the market is rallying. If the economy of the world is in such trouble, how come the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 80 points? Well, here's the inside scoop on this, my friends. Listen very carefully as I share this with you because it goes directly in line with what Pastor Williams is explaining to you. When the Federal Reserve, Mr. Ben Bernanke being the chairman, who also serves as president or on the board of directors of the Bank of International Settlements, whose sole purpose is to create a global currency, okay, as he and the voting members of the board of directors continually vote to devalue the dollar, what is it? Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever been to a magic show? Pastor, we've all been to magic shows, right? The magician wants you to watch one hand while he does something behind his back or unseen with the other, right? This is exactly...
And that's exactly what the Federal Reserve is doing.
That is exactly what they're doing. Why is it? It's in some places, it's even difficult to find out what the value of the U.S. dollar index is. It's becoming more and more difficult to find it on even some financial websites. So, folks, the dollar has decreased. I think it's just quick math. I believe it's like 15 to 17%. The value of the dollar has decreased 15 to 17% in the last month. Now, it's at 75 cents right now. We were talking on the program last week, and it was at 77 plus. The value of the dollar is decreasing because of lowering of interest rates, which the Fed can lower no more. So we have quantitative easing, which in essence what Pastor Williams was just discussing about taking the Federal Reserve buying all of our debt and the Treasury just printing money that's worthless, basically. And so as the Federal Reserve is just monetizing our debt, causing the dollar to be less valuable day after day after day, the stock market rallies. That's the other hand. You're looking at one hand, which is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the stock market. It's going up because the market is reacting to the influx of capital. It doesn't matter that the capital is worthless, but the influx of capital is making it to where businesses, banks are making money hand over fist because of TARP and easy money policy. While on the other hand, the value of the dollar, which you and I use to buy groceries and gasoline and things of importance to pay our bills, is getting lower and lower in value. So they're keeping your eye on the Dow. Everything's great. The Dow is rallying. Oh, by the way, your dollar's worth, 2 cents more today than it was last week. Keep your eye on the dollar. Stop looking at the stock market, because with a blink of an eye, the stock market can and will fall. I don't know when. I'm not going to predict it, but it will dramatically fall, just like the housing bubble. In a matter of days, the housing prices went from all-time highs to all-time lows. Pastor, I cannot tell you how important your message is to these people, and if they will focus on what we're telling them and how to protect themselves, they will be better off for it, and they will be protecting their family. Stop watching the obvious. Start watching what they're trying to hide from us.
The stock market is not an indicator of anything. It is propped up by the plunge protection team every time it needs to have it propped up. They did the same thing in Japan after the tsunami, after the big earthquake. Mm-hmm. And Japanese government came along, and with their version of the plunge protection team, which we have in America, they propped up the Japanese stock market to the point that it's totally worthless paper. Right. And now, of course, we get the problem in Japan, along with what's happening in the Middle East. Oh, my goodness, folks, you must keep your eyes on what is happening in Saudi Arabia. France has threatened Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabian forces have gone in to Bahrain, and some people have been killed. I think there were 13 killed in one day the other day. And now, of course, what you going to do? Are they going to repeat Libya again in Saudi Arabia? And Saudi Arabia is the #1 supplier of crude oil to the United States of America. And I was told that this whole thing in the Middle East would happen. In fact, Rodney, I need to go back just a ways, because I believe last time I appeared on your show that the Middle East crisis had not broken out yet. And when I appeared on your show, I said that I had been told by my elitist friends that within X number of weeks or days, and I've started saying this 5 months ahead of time, they told me that there was going to be a crisis in the Middle East. They wouldn't say where. And then I told you that that crisis, I had been told, would spread all over the Middle East intentionally. And, of course, they support the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a Muslim jihad organization, are supported by the elite. They're the ones financing them, and they will spread through every country in the Middle East with their corruption, as they did in Egypt, in Libya. It is going to go from country to country. It's going to involve Israel also. Oh, my gracious, that scares the daylights out of me to think what's going to happen when Israel gets involved with the Palestinians. Every bit of it stirred up by the same group of people. And then, watch out, once it hits, you'll be doing pretty well in America until it hits Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you see Saudi Arabia have the problems that Libya and Egypt had, watch out. You are going to see $6, $7, and $8 a gallon gasoline almost overnight at the gas pump. And I said this. Now, Rodney, you'll have to verify this to your audience, because many of them are new and didn't hear me back when I was told by the elite that within X number of months there would be a crisis in the Middle East. Then I was told that it would spread all over the Middle East, and I gave this on many radio talk shows all across this nation. I said it on your show, and it happened exactly as the elite had told me. So I'm telling you now, you can expect the rest of these things to take place also, Rodney.
You're exactly right. You said it on our show on January the 7th of this year. And so, I mean, and as well as some of the things you told me off the record after the show was over, we watched, and as you said, to the day, just about to the day, these things occurred. Boom, 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 time after time after time. What you said happened, folks. This is not a this is not a drill. This is not a drill. This is the real deal. Pastor Williams is for real, and what he's sharing with us, this is not anything to take lightly. This is not anything to say, oh, well, you know, we'll just get to it when we can. Let me go back to watching American Idol. No, turn the television off and get to work on protecting your family, because things are going to get bad, and when they do, and when it starts, it's like slipping down a muddy hillside. Once it starts, you're not going to be able to grab a hold of something and hang on. You've got to have everything with you when it starts, because the slide will continue until you hit bottom.
Well, Rodney, everybody in your audience, everyone listening to you in your private consultations, everyone listening to this program today, let me say, you can protect yourself.
That's right.
You do not need to stay awake at night. There is no reason for you to be fearful and look behind bushes when you go outside and look for black helicopters. There's no reason for any of that. I believe, Rodney, and so many people have asked me this on radio talk shows, why do you think the elite tell you these things? And I've said so many times that I believe it was the providence of God that I allowed to be put in that position where probably no other person on the face of the earth has ever been put into such a position. And I believe that God put me there for the sole purpose of appearing on a radio show just like yours today, so that I can help you understand, according to what the elite's plans are, as to what you should do. And if you will take certain precautions right now, you have no reason whatsoever to fear tomorrow. Fear is not of the Lord. And whenever you set things in proper order, then you don't have to fear anything. For instance, and I know we're coming down to a break here right shortly, so whenever I hear the music, I'll just stop.
Because because you're the guest today, we're doing a commercial-free show. That's how much of
thank you, Rodney.
That's how much I value
feel honored. I was told back 3 years ago, when the elitist friend of mine who now has passed away, and I was on the phone with him one day, and the things he told me that the elite had planned, he went on to say within 2 years, you'll not know America. He said within 2 years, nearly everyone will be working for the government. That was before Chrysler and General Motors and the bailout of so many of our big lending institutions. And he went on and on and on with all the things that he said was going to happen. I was flabbergasted, because here I am listening to one of the people who planned it, one of the people who sit behind closed doors and know everything that this handful of elite people on the face of the earth are going to do. And I was to the point that I said to him, what can I do? I care about my wife. I care about my family. What can I do to protect myself? And I think he was probably telling me this more as personal advice than any other one thing, but instead I have told people all across America, and I'm going to show you how this plays out. He said to me, he said, Chaplain, there's only one place that you can spare your assets. And I said, well, for goodness sakes, please tell me, is it in a 401k? Is it in a retirement fund? I said, I'm in my 70s, but yet I've got a wife and a son. And I said that I'm still raising, and I said, how can I possibly spare myself in light of what you say is going to happen. He said, Chaplain, there's only one place. Now, this was back when the real estate bust just began. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. Most all the real estate in America has lost at least 50%. In Arizona, for instance, 60% almost all real estate. People have lost fortunes in 3 years' time. And he said to me, he said, Chaplain, there's only one place that you can spare your assets. And I said, where is that? Now, please, I hope you have that pencil writing. Absolutely. Because you must write down some of these expressions. Put them up beside your calendar and watch it. He said, Chaplain, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. Now, I didn't understand quite what he was saying at the time. I have learned since exactly what he was saying. And then he went on to say, well, I said, well, what are you trying to tell me? He said, Chaplain, we have a currency. And I said, what is your currency? I was expecting him to say the Federal Reserve note, T-bills, maybe bonds issued by the Federal Reserve. No, he said, Chaplain, he said, our currency is gold and silver. Now, that was when you could buy gold for $700 an ounce. You could buy silver for $15 an ounce. And after he finished explaining this to me, I understood what he was talking about. He said, Chaplain, our currency is gold and silver. He said, that's the only thing we depend on. He said, yes, we'll hold a little paper, but if we lose it, it doesn't really matter to us too much. He said, our currency is gold and silver. And he said, Chaplain, you can't depend on real estate. You can't depend on retirement funds. You can't depend on Social Security. He said, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. He said, there's only one thing you can depend on to keep your purchasing power, and that's gold and silver. And I went on radio shows everywhere I could get a listening audience, and I begged people 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I guess it was actually, I begged them. I said, please buy every ounce of gold, every ounce of silver you can buy. Get out of paper, get out of your 401ks. Hopefully I'm not hurting you too much, Rodney. And I said, get out of all of these things. Get out of paper. I said, go and buy every piece of gold and silver you can buy. Don't you wish you had listened to me 3 years ago when you could buy gold for $700 an ounce? Because this morning, a gold dealer in my area offered 1 ounce gold minted by the United States Mint for $1,750, including the premium. I know it's only $1,440, $50 right now, but he was offering it with the premium at $1,750. You could have bought it for $700 when this man told me this. Mm. Now, what basically is happening? I know your price of gasoline is going up at the gas pump, and you're paying more for your groceries, and you say, I can't eat gold. No, you can't. You can do better than eat gold or silver. Oh, you say, what do you mean, Chaplain? I'm going to again tell you what the elite have told me. Take your gold and silver that you bought 3 years ago for $700 an ounce. Hold it. Keep it. Don't dare get rid of it. And whenever they bring in the new world currency, backed by gold, that by that time will be $3,000 an ounce, take that $700 an ounce gold that you bought 3 years ago, turn around and buy the new currency with it, and you will have not lost one single penny. You'll be able to purchase the new currency along with the high price of the groceries, along with the price of the gasoline at the gas pump. You'll be able to buy it for exactly what you bought it for 3 years ago. Now, gasoline at the gas pump. It's gone up. You were paying $1.50 a gallon back, 2.5 years ago. You're paying $4 a gallon now. I filled up the other day, and it was over $4 a gallon here for the type that I have to use in my vehicle. Now, what has changed? The gallon of gasoline is still 4 quarts. It hasn't changed one iota. It's still 4 quarts to the gallon. The quart has gone up in price if the gasoline hasn't changed. The value of the currency that you're buying the gasoline with, that's the only thing that's changed. I mean, the price of the gasoline has not gone up 1 penny. Oh, you say, yes, it has. No, it hasn't. Not based on 4 quarts to the gallon. It's the currency that you purchased the gasoline with that has devalued to the point that now it takes $4 worth to buy what $1.50 bought 3 years ago. How about that coin that 1 ounce of gold, that gold St. Gaudens, minted by the United States Mint that you bought 3 years ago for $700 an ounce, and it's now worth $1,700 an ounce. Has that gold gone up in price? No. Emphatically, no. That gold is the same price it was 3 years ago when it was $700 an ounce. It's still 1 ounce of gold. What has changed? Nothing. But the Federal Reserve note that you purchase that gold with, that is the only thing that has changed in value, and it is going to continue to do the same until it will have practically no purchasing power by the end of 2012, and every bit of this is planned by the elite for the purpose of bringing in the New World Order. That's all, basically, in a nutshell. The name of the game is control. Now you say, oh, why? Why would these people, Chaplain Williams, destroy America? No, they're not destroying America at all. They're getting America for pennies on the dollar. When they bankrupted Chrysler, when they bankrupted General Motors, what did they get them for? You taxpayers gave the elite General Motors and Chrysler by a bailout that the Federal Reserve gave them, and you gave it to them. They were not going to buy Chrysler and General Motors when it was at its prime and worth a fortune. No, they bankrupted it first. Then they turned around and got it for pennies on the dollar. What are they going to get your house mortgage for? Whenever the dollar collapses and you can't make that mortgage, what are they going to get that mortgage for? They're going to get it for a charge.
That's right.
Why? They bankrupted it first. Then they took it over through the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is not an agency of the federal government any more than Federal Express is. I'm sure you know that listening to Rodney Balance's program. What are they going to do? They're going to turn around and own every mortgaged piece of real estate in the United States of America, whether it be commercial or residential, and then what are they going to do? Through the New World Order program, they are going to bring America back again to its glory over a period of many years under the control of the elite and the New World Order. Who did we ask for permission to go in Libya?
United Nations.
Yeah. Why didn't you take up from there? I mean, there's so much to be said here, Rodney.
Well, we talked about that a little bit on the show. You know, a president should go to U.S. Congress for guidance and lay out the plan for what he wants to do with the military and get their approval. This president did not do that. He just went straight to the United Nations because France had said that we needed to do something. Well, you know, when you follow France as a leader, well, first of all, you got to recognize that the French military could be captured by a troop of Boy Scouts with BB guns. So when we're following France's lead in anything militarily, then we're basically reducing ourselves to non-existence in a military strength capacity. So that right there tells me that we have leadership, well, I use that term loosely, leadership in America that wants to take a back seat to the weakest because of maybe academic beliefs rather than the show of strength that our country was founded on and the tenacity that our country was built upon. And it frightens me that we do have leaders in position that are not just killing our currency, but they're also killing the tradition. Hey, I want to share something with you real quick too, Pastor. I know you know this, but and we've said this on the air many times, but Nathaniel Rothschild said in 1818, "I care not what puppet is on the throne of England. Whoever controls England's money supply or debt controls England, and I control England's money supply." And friends, you got to understand, the Rothschilds, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, these guys are a drop in the bucket. That guy down in Mexico, they're a drop in the bucket with their billions or even hundreds of billions of dollars of assets. The Rothschild family have assets of over $100 trillion. The Rockefellers, over $10 trillion. The wealthy elite of the world don't think in the terms we think. Otherwise, they would not own trillions of dollars of assets. And once they bankrupt the rest of America and our currency, and they get their hands on that, because debt really is an accepted currency of the world nowadays. Everything we do is traded upon debt. Once they get their hands on what we're doing and what we've been able to amass, that $100 trillion will more than likely double in their value. And at what price will that be to us? If you don't have access to and control over your accounts, if you don't have access to and control over the gifts, the money, the assets that the Lord has blessed you with, then we need to work together to get you access to and control over those gifts. Contact us at godsdollar.com. We'll help you be prepared for this economic storm that's coming. Well, that's already here. We're already seeing the outer bands of the storm, Pastor. Don't you believe?
Yes, and Rodney, the elite can be stopped. It's not too late yet. I've often made the statement that only by divine intervention can the elite be stopped. That's true. There's no way in this world that we humanly, individually, can stop them. But they are scared to death of the masses waking up. Waking up to what? Waking up to what they're doing. Now, in a nutshell, I know I've only got moments here, so I'm going to have to do this very rapidly.
Well, we have plenty of time.
Let me tell you what. Yeah, go ahead, Rodney.
We have plenty of time, Pastor. Don't rush.
Let me tell you exactly what the elite are doing right now in the Middle East. You need to know so that you can take precautions accordingly and watch it happen. I was told 5 months before they did it that there was going to be a crisis in the Middle East. They told me it would not be with Iran. Everybody thought it would be. And I came on the air and I said, no, it's going to be somewhere else. They wouldn't tell me where. It started in Egypt. Then it went to Libya. It's going to move to one Middle East country after the other. Yemen, Syria, on and on and on you go. Oman. It'll spread through the entire Middle East. Mark my words. This is planned. They basically have supported the Muslim Brotherhood to take over the entire Middle East with their Islamic fanaticism. Now, what's going to happen as a result of this? All of this was done by a design plan of which I was told about a number of months before they ever began to do it. What they want to do is cause so much disruption and problems, and the kings of that whole area being deposed, and under the guise of establishing democracy, which we aren't, by the way. Read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States of America. America is not a democracy.
Amen.
Read the Constitution for yourself. They want you to think you are, but you aren't. They want to establish democracies all over the Middle East. Now, what kind of democracies? Under the auspices of the Muslim Brotherhood. That's what's doing. Just the other day, I was Secretary of State, Mrs. Clinton, met privately, wouldn't allow any reporters in. And why? She was meeting with the Muslim Brotherhood. They were planning exactly what they're going to do with Gaddafi. And it'll spread from country to country to country to the point that eventually the oil supply, watch it now, the oil supply, it is planned to cut it off. Watch out when Saudi Arabia gets hit. This is the one that's primed for America because America gets more of its crude oil from Saudi Arabia than any other Middle East country or any country in the world. When that happens, the American dollar is going to plummet because you'll be paying $7 to $8 a gallon at the gas pump. All of this is a part of the plan to be able to totally destroy the dollar by the end of 2012. And, oh please, this is so important. Many of you remember, and you'll have to hear the details of this in my new DVD series, The Middle East, the rest of the story. Mr. Henry Kissinger, many years ago, went abroad to all of these major oil-producing countries of the Middle East. He said, I want to cut you a deal. He said, we will not produce our own oil fields in America. We promise you that we'll buy oil from you. This was done right by our own Secretary of State. You were betrayed as an American citizen. And he said, we will buy oil from you. We want to ask you to turn around and take a certain portion of what we buy oil from you with and buy our T-bills, our Federal Reserve issues. They knew the crisis of the national debt, even back in the 60s and 70s, that was going to be perpetrated on America. He knew that someone had to pay the interest on that debt. Never mind the debt, $14 trillion. That'll never be repaid, and they know it. Nobody cares because it can't be repaid. Not enough GDP to pay it. But the debt. That's the interest on the debt is what's important. The interest on the debt is paid by other nations buying our T-bills and our Federal Reserve issues. Japan can't buy them anymore. They've got to now rebuild their own country. They were one of our biggest buyers. Now China is saying, we don't want it anymore. We don't trust America. Watch out. Whenever these oil-producing countries in the Middle East stop buying our debt, Saudi Arabia said it yesterday, that we are going to phase out using the American dollar, and they basically said we're not going to show up free treasury auctions anymore. Now the Federal Reserve's turning around buying their own debt. What happens when the crisis becomes so critical in the Middle East, which supplies us with our crude oil, since we're not providing it from our own soil? What is going to happen to the American dollar? Are you ready? Here it is. The national debt is going to be defaulted on. Did you hear that? I hope you did, folks, because you're going to see it. Put it down beside your calendar. This is going to become so critical in the Middle East, it will affect the dollar to the point that the national debt will be defaulted on. They must default on the national debt because they can never pay it off. What's going to happen to these Middle East oil-producing countries that trusted Mr. Kissinger many years ago, have bought all of this paper from the Federal Reserve? They thought it was as sound as the dollar. And when it becomes worthless overnight, what is China going to do that holds over $1 trillion of our Federal Reserve issues when overnight it becomes worthless? It's got to be defaulted on. And when it does, can you imagine Walmart without a single thing on its shelves marked made in China? You think China's going to continue to sell us things when we double-cross them and default on our national debt, which will take place in order to be able to bring in the New World Order? And mark my words, you are going to see the dollar become almost dead by the end of 2012. At some point, and I'm not giving a date on this, at some point you will just see our national debt defaulted on. And what happens then? The New World Order comes in with its new currency, and what you're seeing right now before your eyes in the Middle East, you must see it. You've got to see it on our new DVD series. I beg of you. Now, Rodney thought enough of this to fly all the way out here, all the way across America, to be with us on set as my guest, because I needed someone, and the Lord knew it and brought him along just at the right time by God's providence. And he appeared with us on set, and we tried our best to tell people. First of all, we started out, we were going to have a 1-hour DVD series, just 1 hour. Couldn't do it. We took 2 hours. The camera crew said, wait a minute, you've gone up to 3 hours. We have in digital, quality, the Middle East, the rest of the story, a 3 DVD series describing everything that the elite have told me is going to happen in the Middle East, what's going to happen to the dollar. I give some dates that they've given to me by the end of 2012. I talk about what's going to happen to your paper. I talk about where gold and silver is going. You must see one thing in this. And, Rodney, I don't know whether you've gotten your set of these or not. We just started shipping them this week. But I hope that you saw on this, we were able to secure a video soundbite in Egypt when there was so many people in the square chanting, and they were, this scares me. It scares me terribly. They were chanting. I couldn't understand it because in the Egyptian language, but someone interpreted it for us, and we put it up on the screen. They were chanting, "To Jerusalem we go, martyrs in the millions. To Jerusalem we go, martyrs in the millions." Oh, my goodness, when I saw that. And then this past week, when I saw what they did in sending missiles into Israel, when on, I think it was yesterday, a day before yesterday, a suicide bomber exploded in a shopping center in the height of the crowded day, and one person, I think, was killed. They're getting Jerusalem involved in this now. And whatever they do, oh, my goodness, you've got to see these things. You've got to see the New World Order over and over and over. We put in sound bites showing other people saying the same thing that the elite have told me. And I beg of you to get this, please. Let me give out my number now before we come to the end of the program. Then we'll go on with some of these things. I beg of you to call our toll-free number. It's 888-799-6111, or you can go on the web to prophecyclub.com. propheclub.com, propheclub.com, or our toll-free number. Oh, by the way, whenever you talk with our toll-free number, you'll talk with American operators. You won't hear any foreign language operators. It's right here in the United States of America. We have 6 operators we've hired to be on the phones around the clock, all day and all night. Our toll-free number, 888-799-6111. The Middle East, the rest of the story, our latest production, just delivered the first album this week. And if you'd like to know everything that the elite have told me for the past 3 years, if you haven't gotten our 6-DVD set, I plead with you to do it. 8 hours of DVD viewing, 6 DVDs, or our very latest 3 DVD series, The Middle East, the rest of the story. And by the way, these DVDs are not copywritten. Did you hear what I said? I said they are not copywritten. I want you to copy them, get an original, give them out to everybody you can, tell the story as fast as you can. I don't have time to be greedy. We've just got to get the message out. And you'll see Rodney Balance on set with us and giving a lot of additives to this whole series. So, Rodney, I know we're running out of time here, but you go ahead, and then I'll go in whatever direction you'd like us to go in.
Well, I think you were doing pretty well selling DVDs until you told them they're going to see me. I think everything was going really well right up to that point, because when I have not gotten my set yet, but I did see an advanced version, and I saw why I need to be eating more healthy food like what you shoved down my throat while I was out there.
Well, we tried our best to feed you well while you were out here.
You did.
Can you imagine, Rodney, when the countries that way back in the 60s and 70s trusted our government and our dollar as the reserve currency world? Can you imagine when they began to move all of our industry abroad to China, whether it be Boeing aircraft or Caterpillar or your pair of shoes that you buy or anything in the store that you want, nearly made in China now? Can you imagine when China, who holds over $1 trillion of our national debt, overnight the securities that they hold have been declared defaulted on and worthless, and they realize that they have been intentionally double-crossed by the United States of America? Can you imagine how this would fit perfectly into the hands of the new world order? As one person in our government said recently, don't ever allow any crisis to go to waste.
That's right.
They'll create the crisis in order to be able to bring in what they want, because the name of the game is control. And they said many years ago, Daddy Bush, he said, we will have a new world order. Oh, my goodness. When these countries realize how they've been double-crossed, Rodney, what's their reaction going to be?
And folks can see these things. These clips that you're talking about are on this DVD set. And folks, I'm going to tell you, you've got to order these DVDs. If you're not sure about what's being told here, maybe you can't remember some of the things that we talked about at the first of this hour, you have got to call right now, 888-799-6111. 888-799-6111. Get your copy of the 3 DVD set, The Middle East, the rest of the story today. Don't wait. You've got to get this. Copy it and give it to everybody in your church. Because if you try to tell people in your church, their ears are not prepared to hear this. Their hearts may not be prepared to understand it. Get them a copy. Just make them a copy of this DVD set and give it to them as a gift. Tell them you love them in God's name and you want them and you want to help them be prepared. Let them watch it and make up their own mind. Once you see this crucial, critical information presented in a way that only Pastor Williams can present it, because he's the only one that has this information, you will be amazed. You will flat out finally understand what the bigger picture about all that's going on. And just to give a little bit more insight as to, why in the world would anybody want to do this to our country? I'm going to break it down into a way we can all understand. Have you ever played a game, a video game or anything like that, and you've beaten the game so many times you become bored with it? So you go and seek out a more difficult game, and you play that when you beat it, and you continue that cycle. Well, people with a lot of money do that with companies. They buy companies. Maybe they'll gut the company and sell it off for pieces. Typically, that's what happens. They'll break it off and they'll sell pieces of the company and make profits, and then they'll go out and buy 2 or 3 more companies with those profits and do the same thing. And finally, they become bored of dealing with just corporations, no matter how large they are. The elite, these people have more money, access to more money than we can ever even imagine. I mentioned a while ago the Rothschilds, over $100 trillion in assets. That's unimaginable for us. Think about this. When people become bored with buying and breaking up and selling companies, they do it with countries. They do it with countries. If you look at Argentina, maybe, as an example, you look at some of the other countries that have seen economic devastation, and you don't understand how anybody or why anybody would do this. I think maybe, I just put it into a perspective we can all understand. Maybe they weren't bored, but they realized that there's more and more control of more and more stuff gives you a desire to have more and more control of more and more stuff. Am I going down the right path, you believe, Pastor?
You sure are. That's exactly the way the elite think. In fact, I've written 3 books. They're all out of print now, but I've written 3 books trying to describe the mindset of the elite as I lived with them. Keep in mind, I sat across the dinner table from them, lived in the dorms with them, sat in their board meetings, and I had been a pastor for 12 years prior to that. It had counseling sessions with many, many different kinds of people. And when I got to with these elite, I had an opportunity because of my past experiences to be able to analyze why they think, how they think, and what they do. So I wrote books trying to help people understand the mindset of these people because they don't think like you and I think. They think only in terms of the name of the game is control. So, Rodney, you're exactly right.
Well, we're drawing down to the end of the program here, but I just want to emphasize one more time of the importance of people calling and ordering their own copy of this DVD set that you can have for generations to come, because when your children are wondering, you know, you're telling them the story of how America used to be and they can't imagine it, you can show this DVD to them and they can understand some things that went on now and went on 10 years ago, maybe some things that are in the process of changing our nation to what it will become when you're trying to explain it to your children or your grandchildren. Go now to 888-799-6111, because it's not just important for you, it's going to be important when you're trying to explain it to children who have never known what America used to be. Pastor, thanks so much for joining us today, and I hope you'll come back again sometime real soon. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have you with me.
Roger, it's a privilege to be with you, and I may say one last word to everyone out in the listening audience. First thing you do before you do anything else, set your spiritual house in order. You can set all your financial house in order you want to, but whenever the storms come, if you don't know that you're born again, if you're not sure that Jesus Christ is your Savior, if you aren't positive that your life and your home is established on the Bible, you're in trouble. Set that house on a solid rock. Right now, immediately after this broadcast, get on your knees and settle it with the Lord. Then set your financial house in order. And when the storms come, your house will be on a solid rock instead of sinking sand, and you'll be able to stand. Thank you, Rodney,
Amen.
for allowing me to be with you.
Absolutely. Please tell the family hello for us, and we look forward to talking to you and maybe even seeing you before too long, okay? God bless you. Thanks again for joining us here on Balancing Your Budget. It has been an honor once again to have my dear friend, Pastor Lindsey Williams, join us, and I just want to reiterate the importance of being prepared. And I want to share this with you in a message of this economic preparedness program that we're launching coming up in the next few days. Come to godsdollar.com. First part of next week. I mean, you can go there right now, but go to godsdollar.com early next week to find out more about this economic preparedness program. For $9.95 a month. First month is only going to be $1. And then after that, it's $9.95 a month. You'll get access to articles, newspaper articles, magazines, the same information that I get. We spend thousands of dollars a year on information so that we can bring it to you. We're going to stop this radio broadcast, and we're going to be focused more on working with people who are serious about doing something different. So the only way you're going to hear this information is to be a member of the Economic Preparedness Program. So make sure you visit with us. God'sDollar.com. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time right here on Balancing Your Budget.